There are a lot of different races and species we see within the world of MLP, all of which have different and really cool abilities. And as per usual, that got me wondering, what species is the most powerful and has the best abilities? For this video, we will not be counting any one-off creatures like Ahuizotl or Iron Will, and we will mostly avoid looking at the comics, with a couple of exceptions we'll get to later. That should leave us with these 16 species in total, which we can conveniently rank on this numbered 4x4 grid. I said numbered 4x4 grid. Thank you. So, let's go through these species in order of when they are first introduced in the show, starting with the 3 regular pony races, the Earth Ponies, Unicorns, and Pegasi. Now, I'm sorry to all the 3 Earth Pony lovers out there, but there is no doubt in my mind that Earth Ponies rank the lowest here. I'm not even sure if the show itself knew what they wanted to do with the Earth Ponies. Were they supposed to be stronger than the others? Meant to be farmers or work in agriculture? Is that why they gave them the whole plant magic in G5? Or just neither? There are hints to all of these 3 options in the first season alone. Meanwhile, the Pegasi and Unicorn are able to fly and cast spells. The more interesting question here is which of these 2 is superior to the other. The discussion about Unicorns versus Pegasi has been going ever since the show first aired. Personally, I think at the highest level of performance, Unicorns would easily beat Pegasi, being able to fly themselves like Starlight does. But that's only the very few Unicorns who got a cutie mark in Magic. Because most regular unicorns aren't nearly as strong and can usually only perform simple spells like levitation and whatever magic they got from their cutie mark, like Rarity's gem magic. Meanwhile, almost all Pegasi can fly wherever they want. Because of that, I think the Pegasi do have the slight upper hand here. However, not too long after, we are introduced to the first other species, the Griffins. As far as abilities go, Griffins are just Pegasi but with claws. Their living situation might be worse, at least the living situation in Griffinstone is, but just looking at their abilities, Griffins take the lead for now. Actually, scratch that. Next up, we have a creature that can fly, has claws, and also breathe fire. It's the dragons. I honestly don't think I need to explain why these fire-resistant birds rank higher than the griffins. Now for a non-flying species, it's the zebras. The main zebra we see in the show is Zecora, but from the comics we know that there are a bunch more living in a land called Farazi overseas, which is actually where Zecora is from too. From those comics, we also learn that Zecora's rhyming is actually unique to her, which is good because otherwise I would have absolutely ranked them lower because of it. Then again, as far as abilities go, the zebras don't really have much going for them either. Because of that, I think I'll rank them just below the Earth Ponies, just because they might have some strength ability stuff. Next up are the Diamond Dogs, who we meet when they kidnap Rarity. I would have given them a higher ranking for this if she didn't manage to escape within a matter of hours. Regardless, as far as abilities go, all they really have going for them is the ability to dig in the ground, which would have still ranked them higher than the Earth Ponies and Zebras, but because we see how easily influenced and controlled they are, I think they would ultimately still lose that battle, leaving the Diamond Dogs in very last place for now. As we're nearing the end of Season 1, it's time for the Buffalo, who are essentially just stronger Earth Ponies. Though I don't think they're anywhere near as powerful as the Unicorns are, so they can fit in right in the middle. Now on to the beginning of Season 2. We have the Draconiquus. For those of you not familiar, that's Discord species. I decided to include this one as a somewhat honorable mention because in the comics we see that there are in fact multiple Draconiquises, or is it Draconiquisi? I don't know, whatever. Discord, Cosmos, and Eris are among the most powerful creatures we see in the entire universe of MLP. But because we only ever see the 3 of them, it's hard to tell if those levels of power are the norm for the species or if they're just very powerful outliers. Regardless, it begs the question if there are more Draconiquises out there, or if they're just the last of the species. I personally doubt that's the case, and I think there is a lot more to the Draconiquises than what we know already, but for this video, I don't think there's enough to go off of to properly rank them. And even if I did, it'd be boring as fuck, because they'd be in first place so easily. Next up is every pony's favorite buggos, the Changelings. To me, they're an interesting one, because Changelings both have wings and horns. However, when we see them in the show, their magical abilities seem to be limited to just transformation, and only Queen Chrysalis seems to be able to perform other magic like levitation or teleportation. Oh, and while we're on the topic of Changeling leaders, I quickly wanted to address Thorax, because honestly, would. Yeah, no, that's all. Back to the changelings as a whole for now. Because they're able to fly, but also have other abilities, that already puts them above the Pegasi for me, and I'd argue that shapeshifting is a little more useful than just having talents. However, knowing how huge the adult dragons can grow and what power they possess, I think they do keep the top spot for now, putting changelings in second place. Next, we have the crystal ponies. I was debating on whether or not they count as their own species from the regular ones, but considering they have their own abilities for us to go over, I think it would be more fun to cover them anyways. I am genuinely very curious what the writers of the show thought when they were making the crystal ponies. So, for this Season 3 opening, we're gonna need a new gimmick for Hasbro to milk the shit out of through toys. What have we got, Megan?
Alright, so, hear me out on this, Jim. What if they discover this old, forgotten place called the Crystal Empire?
Alright, and how will that work into the canon lore we've built so far?
I'm so glad you asked. My idea is as follows. 1,000 years ago...
Perfect! And what about the toys?
Well, the crystal ponies living there have this beautiful semi-transparent coat with sparkles and shiny effects around them. Perfect for a new toy line.
But won't that be an absolute hell to animate?
Well, that's not our problem, is it?
And what about the crystal ponies themselves? What's their deal?
I hadn't thought about that yet. Oh, what if they need to use the light and love inside them to power some magic object? 'Cause friendship.
Not a bad start, but too kid-friendly. Our audience isn't a bunch of little girls, you know.
Well then how about if they don't power this crystal heart, they all freeze to death? Oh, and let's make all of them earth ponies, 'cause why not?
Absolutely beautiful, Megan. That's why we hired you. You're so amazing.
Oh, Jim.
You know what? For the first time since I started making these dumb fucking videos, I am genuinely questioning what choices I made in life to get to this very moment. Sitting in my office on a Friday night, recording a Jim Miller x Megan McCarthy fanfiction. I could be playing games, going clubbing, getting drunk, who fucking knows? But no, I had to ship a writer and director of My Little Pony in an imaginary fanfic. Also, if any of you feel called out by this very, very specific scenario, I would seriously reconsider your life choices like I am right now. Right. Time to forget that ever happened, and let's just keep going. Because the crystal ponies are essentially nerfed earth ponies, so much so that they could freeze to death if they don't feel enough love or happiness to power the crystal heart. I think that means they'll be relieving the diamond dogs from their bottom spot on the list. Next up is another slight comic influenced species, the Umbrum. And if you don't know what the Umbrum is, it's King Sombra. I decided to include the Umbrum as a separate species as well, as we get quite a lot of lore about them in the comics. The Umbrum are shadow ponies who were originally trapped by Celestia and Luna 1,000 years ago. Perfect. Shut it! They're described as wraith-like beings who used to terrorize the Crystal Empire. Which is great and all, but what abilities do they have? Well, for starters, they can levitate and fly without the use of wings, which already puts them above Pegasi and Griffins for me. Additionally, they also seem to be able to transform some ponies' physical form, as that is exactly what they did to get Sombra into the Crystal Empire in the first place, and same goes for manipulating physical matter around them, like we see one of them do here in the Siege of the Crystal Empire comics. I think all of this honestly earns the Umbrum a well-deserved top spot for now. Next up is another species I was unsure about including. It's the bat ponies, also known as the Thestrals or Nocturnas. While the nocturnal fruit horses are very popular within the fandom, we barely see them in the show. We know Luna's royal guard is at least partly made up of bat ponies, and we have the vampire bat Fluttershy we see during the Fruit Bat episode in Season 4. But beyond that, they're never really addressed. That also raises the question, is the vampire bat pony Fluttershy turns into the same as the regular bat ponies? Looking at it more closely, I do think they're different, mostly by how feral Flutterbat acts throughout all of that episode. If all bat ponies would follow that kind of erratic behavior, they would likely never be able to help in the Royal Guard. Because of how little we actually know about the bat ponies though, it's a bit of a guess. but I assume that they will have at least some sort of night vision and echolocation based abilities, but might also not be able to see as well, if at all, during the day, based on the abilities of a real bat. Because of that, I think I'll put them right below the Pegasi for now. Just like Discord, I wanted to give an honorable mention to Tirek. In the Fiendship is Magic comics, we get some backstory about Tirek's youth, where we learn that there are other centaurs that can drain magic. However, it is not clearly shown how common this ability is, nor how many centaurs there actually are within the kingdom, as we only see 3 during that comic. Because of that, I've decided to not include Tirek in the list. Now, from that big and scary centaur, we go to the eeny teeny breezies. Now, if we follow my previous judgments, I should say, oh, but they have wings and they can fly, so they're at least as good as Pegasi, right? But obviously that isn't true in this case. The breezies can barely fly on their own, and rely on the flow and direction of wind to hopefully get them home. In some cases, like we see in the show, they even need to be aided by the local Pegasi. Now in G5, we actually see them run some sort of secret night market, which is kinda cool, I gotta admit. Though, not cool enough to spare them from being last place, I'm afraid. Moving up north, during Season 5, we are first introduced to the Yaks. Just like the Earth Ponies and the Buffalo, the Yaks don't really have anything going for them beyond their brute strength. I don't think there is much of a question about if the Yaks are the strongest of these 3, because I've basically zero doubt that they are. The interesting question to me is, would they be stronger than the unicorns? And honestly, yeah. Like I mentioned in the beginning, most unicorns don't have very powerful magic, and the Yaks are shown to be very resilient creatures. I think more so than the average unicorn might be able to conjure up with their magic. Therefore, I'm placing the Yaks right above them. Now, briefly taking a detour to the movie, we are introduced to the Hippogriffs. Wings, check. Claws, check. And then next up the question, is their ability to turn into sea ponies better than the Changeling's ability to shapeshift into anything they want? Considering the Hippogriffs are shown to need a piece of the gem in Sequestria to transform, I'd say their abilities aren't up to par with the buggies. Plus, a Changeling can transform into a sea pony to swim as well. And then last, but definitely not least, we head over to the Peaks of Peril to meet our fiery, fluffy forest friends, the Kirin. Now, as far as general magical abilities are concerned, I do think the unicorns reign superior. However, the Kirin's ability to turn into their Nuric form is likely more powerful than most unicorns' magic. Since it is also a really effective scare tactic, as we see in the beginning of the Sounds of Silence episode, I think the Kirin reign superior. So much so that I also think they deserve to be placed above the Yaks. Now, that concludes the list for today's video. I was originally thinking about including alicorns on there too, but we all know that through their magical powers of plot armor, they would likely end up on place number 1 anyways. Let's instead move on to the final section of this video. Earlier this week, I ran a series of polls on this channel, putting different species against each other in a 1v1v1, and I asked the viewers, you guys, to explain how you think the battle would play out and who would win. So let's take a look at some of the best responses we got. Starting off, we have a comment from WannabeLich7159 who says, if we're talking about lone combatants and not a species all-out brawl, I'd put my money on Earth Ponies, with Pegasi as a close second. Unicorns have magic, but our frame of reference for unicorns is skewed in my opinion. Twilight, Sunset, and Starlight are highly gifted unicorns and do not represent most of the population. I doubt your average unicorn can teleport. Their telekinesis would probably amount to mane pulling. Pegasi have agility, of course, and flight gives them an advantage, but likewise the average Pegasus is not as fast or strong as Rainbow. But the only magic the Earth Ponies have is a connection with nature and super strength, and one of those is very helpful in a fight. I do get where you're coming from with the Earth Ponies' increased strength, but I do think Pegasi still take it in the end. After all the Pegasi can fly, at which point the Earth Ponies just simply cannot hit them, whereas the Pegasi, whether they're as strong as Rainbow or as weak as Derpy is, they can still fly and stay out of reach for as long as they want. But I do really appreciate your interesting theory. Next up we have a comment from Sarah the Salmon 99, who says, I think the Earth Ponies and Pegasi should immediately realize they would lose, so decide to join together. Then an insane elaborate training montage takes place, followed by a complicated battle strategy montage. The Earth Ponies and Pegasi would then go execute their plan, only for the unicorns to laser beam them like Adam did in Has Been Hotel to Serpentius. That's honestly a very valid take if you assume every unicorn is as powerful as a Twilight or Starlight is. Realistically though, like was said in the previous comment and earlier in the video, not all of the unicorns are that strong. I would absolutely love to see Starlight pull an Adam and just blast everyone to shit like that. Next up, Marco6204. I think the Diamond Dogs could overpower the others, and we see in the comics that Zecora is an outlier among zebras for being a potion maker. So no, the average zebra isn't throwing potions like the Alchemist Monkey from BTD 6. While I think that the Diamond Dogs would do better than the 4% of votes they got, we also have the Griffins in the lineup who once again can fly, which to me kind of goes back to the situation with the Pegasi that we had in the first comment, whereas both the Diamond Dogs and the Zebras would just not be able to hit the Griffins unless they wanted to. Next up we have a comment from Cozy_Blue, who says, the Breezies will almost definitely die or fly away from a breeze that's too strong, and the Crystal Ponies are just retextured ponies. Changeling no diffs both due to wings and ability to steal love, which is the very thing that powers the Crystal Heart and gives the Crystal Ponies their crystalline look. While I get where you're coming from, and I do personally think the Changelings would win, as you can also see by the 91% of votes they got, I think this raises an interesting theory. What if the Changelings would go after the Crystal Ponies first? They would win, as we've established, but then, because they steal all the love, the Crystal Heart stops to function, therefore shattering the protective barrier around the Crystal Empire, covering the entire Crystal Empire by a snowstorm, leaving the Breezies as the sole survivor, because they just did not participate to begin with. And lastly, we have a comment from Sally Slytherin. Imagining this scenario takes place after the movie, so hippogriffs can change freely between their two forms, I assume the hippogriff would win in this. The hippogriffs stay underwater for a majority. Since it's a battle between all, they'd wait until one group wins, probably the dragons. A small group would lead the dragons towards them, but it's a trap. As soon as the dragons were close enough, the hippogriffs shoot out of the water, grab onto the dragons, and drag them underwater. The wings are wet, or not as effective for flight, their fire means nothing, and they probably can't breathe underwater, thus making the hippogriff superior. I have nothing else to say other than that is awesome, and I want to see that. The dragons won that poll with a significant majority, and I honestly think we don't give the hippogriffs enough credit for how well of a fight they'd be able to put up, especially with the water on their side. Now, I'll be doing more of these polls and reacting to more of you guys' suggestions in future videos, so if you want to make sure you stay up to date, or be able to give your own suggestions to potentially be featured in the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so all the polls will show up in your subscriber feed as well as on your YouTube homepage. For now though, it's time to wrap up the video. Usually I end it with like a silly joke and then cut away to the end credits and everyone has a laugh and a ha ha ha, but for this video, I thought I'd do it a little bit different.